Coming up, we review all of the action from yesterday in Major League Baseball. This is Locked On Now MLB.
The biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now MLB, local experts weighing in on the biggest stories in baseball. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. We've got our Locked On MLB hosts here. They're ready to recap all of the action from yesterday in baseball, but we start off with our biggest game.
The biggest game.
Michael Wacha wanted in on the complete game fun for the Red Sox, and that's exactly what he did Monday night in Boston's 1-0 win over the Angels. Hey, it's Lauren from Locked On Red Sox, and Michael Wacha, the story of the game here, joins Nate Eovaldi and Nick Pivetta to throw complete games for the Red Sox this season. Now, Christian Vasquez was the difference maker here with his RBI to make it a 1-0 game, a score the Red Sox later would win by. However, Michael Wacha, he threw the complete game for the Red Sox here, and not only that, he becomes the first pitcher to throw a complete game shutout for the Red Sox in a 1-0 win since Curt Schilling did it in 2007 against the Oakland Athletics. So a lot to break down, a lot to celebrate. The Red Sox extend their win streak. The Angels extend their losing streak to 12. But Michael Wacha, the story of this game. I will break all of this down for you on Tuesday's episode of Locked On Red Sox.
Well, Michael Wacha shuts down the Angels with a complete game, 3 hits, no runs. We lose 12 in a row. What's going on, everybody? It's John from Locked On Angels. The Halos cannot buy a win right now. You kind of had some hope about tonight and coming home and that they would be able to get a win tonight. And Noah Syndergaard was on the mound. He did not really have an out pitch, but he got through 6 innings and looked fairly decent and was much better than his last start. But he's really missing that strikeout pitch. He got 3 Ks, but it just didn't seem like he was fooling anybody there for the first few innings. He didn't get very many swings and misses. Mike Trout broke his slump. He got a single and had a walk tonight, things like that. And that's why I'm wearing the Trout hat, by the way, in case you were wondering. Had to do something to bust the slump. Now we just need something to break this losing streak. Man, I don't know what to do. Pray to the baseball gods. Maybe put some incense on your Angels equipment, your gear, your shirts, your hats. I don't know. You guys, we're running out of ideas here. But come join Mike and I over on Locked On Angels, wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube. We'll see you there.
Well, that was an awesome game by Hunter Greene. We talked about how much he needed to be good, if only for himself, not only just for the Reds to win, and he did it in an emphatic way. Hey, this is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast. As I'm riding away from Great American Ballpark in just driving rain this monsoon, got my wife driving, I promise I'm not driving, but the Cincinnati Reds played beautifully for 7 innings. Game got called on account of this crazy rain and the fact that the grounds crew just had a time trying to get the tarp out. The umpires really didn't want to delay this game at all. I mean, the rain was coming down in sheets. And they finally were able to get like 7 tarps cover the field. But by that point, I think it was pretty obvious we weren't continuing this ball game. And Hunter Greene really could have gone another inning, maybe 2, depending on how well he pitched in the 8th, because he was just so good. 8 strikeouts. He allowed 1 hit, which was a bunt single that is kind of controversial because Dalton Varsho's foot was on the batter's box line, and he might have been out. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Beautiful night. Doesn't take away from the fact that Hunter Greene's slider went exactly where he wanted it to go. The fastball was moving, was missing bats, and it was said that this is only the 7th start since StatCast began in 2015 that a pitcher has gone 7 or more innings and only allowed that's right, not 1, not 2, 0 hard contact. Beautiful night for Hunter Greene. We'll be talking all about that and more on the next Locked On Reds podcast.
Coming up, we'll have more from yesterday's action in baseball. This is Locked On Now MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Now is brought to you by Bet Online, the #1 spot for all of your online sports gambling needs. The NBA Finals are underway and the Stanley Cup playoffs continue as well. So make sure you get all of your bets in. Just head over to betonline.net. Welcome back to Locked On Now MLB. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Now we continue our look around the league.
Let's go around the league.
Well, it was the old, he hit me on purpose, or was it in the ninth inning of the Astros game? That's what the umpires thought in the 7-4 loss for the Houston Astros. What did Hector Neris do? Was it on purpose? Was it not? Who knows? But it led to a both benches clearing for the Astros and the Mariners, and eventually led to Neris and Dusty Baker getting tossed. This was a weird game overall. Christian Javier just didn't have his best stuff. The Mariners scored 5 runs, but the Astros did hit 3 home runs against the Mariners, but it just was not enough. 4 runs, second time all season that they got a loss when they scored 4 runs. And we'll talk about this and more on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
To no one's surprise, Hector Neris and the Houston Astros are complete, utter chumps. This is Tidy Gonzalez, host of the Locked On Mariners podcast. Mariners defeat the Astros by a score of 7-4 to open up their 3-game set down in Houston on Monday night. A lot to unpack from this game. Way too much for this one little video. We could talk about Robbie Ray's struggles. We could talk about Cal Raleigh's big night, but there's really only one thing running through my mind, and I'm sure only one thing running through your mind after watching this game, and that's the finish, particularly what Neris and the Astros did. And I don't entirely fault Neris for throwing at Ty France. I assume that was under the direction of the Astros dugout, which is absolutely stupid considering it was a 1-run ball game, sure, with 2 outs in the top of the ninth, but it was a 1-run ball game. They put a runner on base, but hey, if you want to give the Mariners more chances to add on insurance, by all means. And that's exactly what Seattle did, getting a 2-run opposite field home run from Julio Rodriguez to make it 7-4 in an absolute glorious, glorious way. But what happened after was just utterly disgraceful. Neris allows Crawford to get on first base, and after that, on the first pitch to Eugenio Suarez, throws a 94.4 mile per hour fastball at Suarez's head. Again, this was not a soft toss pitch. This was not a breaking ball. This was a near 95 mile per hour hard object being hurled at the head of Eugenio Suarez, who had nothing to do with this. He had struck out 4 times in this game. Suarez did nothing. And Neris put Suarez's livelihood on the line by throwing that fastball. That could have done a ton of damage, and he should be absolutely suspended, not just for 1 game, for multiple games. That is a disgusting act. Just no way around it. Absolutely disgusting by Neris. Now, do I think that Major League Baseball is actually going to hand down such a suspension? No. Especially after seeing the way this umpire crew reacted to it when it happened. It took about a good 15, 20, maybe even 30 seconds for them to officially eject Neris from this game. And then they allowed him to stay on the field even longer to argue his point or make his case as if he did not just throw a 95 mile per hour fastball over the head of Eugenio Suarez on the very first pitch of that at bat after everything that had just transpired. Neris is an absolute chump. The Astros are absolute chumps, and they got bodied like absolute chumps. We're going to be talking about it all on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Mariners, and we are officially on Brawl Watch because this doesn't look like this is over between these 2 teams. Check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We got a lot to talk about tomorrow. We'll see you then.
That's all for today on Locked On Now MLB. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you check out Locked On MLB and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.